This is DSMW, and I'm Susan Massey. I'm here with Chris Ingram. Chris Ingram is a writer, a publisher, a blogger extraordinaire. And I just found out recently, reading your blog, that you also helped Admiral Collins with his campaign.
I did. He was a fine gentleman, a great American, a true statesman, and a leader. I have nothing but great memories of working with him on his campaign and getting to know him. And it was really a tremendous loss to both the Collins family, to the community here in Tampa, St. Pete area, and the state of Florida. He was Charlie Crist appointed Executive Director of the Florida Department of Veterans Affairs. He was a retired two-star Rear Admiral and a businessman, a community activist, if you will, in the sense that he's involved in his community at many different levels in his church and whatnot. Unfortunately, of all the great attributes of Admiral Collins, the one thing that he did not possess was being a great politician.
Oh, really?
However, I say that, and I say it with great compliment, actually, because I don't think that in today's day and age you can be a great statesman, a gentleman, and a politician at the same time. And he didn't really take to a lot of the necessities of politics and campaigning when he ran for the U.S. Senate a few years ago in the Republican primary against Katherine Harris. He didn't really like to get involved in the gimmickry, the fundraising side of campaigns and those aspects that are unfortunately very much a requirement of most successful candidates, at least those who are not self-funded.
Right. Well, now his father was the
former governor.
Former governor.
Former governor during the tumultuous late 50s and early 60s, and seeing Florida through the crisis of segregation and desegregation and getting our schools and our social systems integrated. He was a Democrat, but Admiral Collins was a Republican, and he told a funny story one time about back in the 80s when he told his father that he was a registered Republican. Admiral Collins' comment about how his dad reacted to that news, which he told him over the telephone. He said, the phone almost melted in my hand.
Oh my gosh, I can only imagine.
So.
Well, you're in the big chair today. What's going on locally? This is being taped in Tampa. And what's going on with the local political scene?
Well, we've got a lot of interesting races here. Hillsborough County Commissions, school board, state house and senate races. A lot of interesting stuff going on. Candidates are all obviously active and getting out their message. Their campaigns are doing phone banks and sign waving, and of course our mailboxes are just full of campaign mailings.
Oh my gosh, signs everywhere.
They sure are. But we've also got a congressional race, a couple of congressional races that are contested in the primaries, and here in Tampa, one being Kathy Castor's seat, which is we've got 4 or 5 Republicans running in that race. All good people, good conservatives, would do a good job up in Washington, D.C.
The interesting thing, in reading, it said that they no longer really know where the light rail, there's several places the light rail is going, and we're going to vote on it before it actually is planned out, which is interesting.
Right.
So.
That's a really contentious issue with voters this year, particularly conservative Republicans who tend to be very much anti-tax. There is a little bit of misinformation being dispelled by the opposition, those who are opposed to the penny sales tax for transportation improvements in Hillsborough County, and that is specifically that they've tried to couch it as this is just about rail, and it's not. It's so much more than that. It's about road improvements, it's about bike lanes, it's about improved bus service, and it's also about light rail. And with light rail, we also need to note that there's a difference between light rail that will be considered for as part of this penny sales tax improvement, which is different from the high-speed rail that Obama came down and talked about and that we've got underway. That's going to occur between Tampa and Orlando in the first phase, and then later on from Orlando down to Miami. So those are two different issues, and voters need to be careful about not confusing them. But specifically to the light rail and the penny sales tax question, which we won't actually see on the ballot until November.
Okay.
It's a 1 cent sales tax increase that the voters are going to be given the opportunity to say yes or no on. The county commission has not passed that. They've only put it on the ballot to let the people decide.
Oh,
And
okay.
I believe that as, you know, we really live in a republic. We often talk about our democracy, but
Right,
we really
right.
live in a representative republic where we elect people who then go to office, you know, whether it's state legislature, county
Right,
commission, or
right.
Congress, and then they vote for us. A true democracy, the citizens are actually getting to state their voice and vote directly, and that's what's going to occur on this measure. We will have the opportunity to say yes or no. Now, any of us who live or have traveled frequently in Hillsborough County recognize that there's a tremendous problem with transportation.
There is.
We all sit stuck in traffic, you know, whether you're up in New Tampa going down Bruce B. Downs, or you're in South Tampa
Right,
and you're
right.
going down Kennedy, or
Right.
you live out in West Chase and, you know, it's the big mess over Memorial and Independence. There's a transportation problem in this county and it needs to be addressed. Unfortunately, our elected officials over the course of the last 20 years have done nothing, and the problem has only gotten worse and worse. And every day that we don't address it, it's going to get not only worse and worse, but it's going to cost more and more. What I like about this plan is that it pays for itself. It's not something that we're going to pass on in the form of bonds or as just debt obligations that future generations are going to have to pay for, rather, like we see when the federal government gets involved in something. It's going to cost billions of dollars to run that high-speed rail system from Tampa to Orlando
That's
and eventually to
right.
Miami.
That's
and our
right.
children and our grandchildren are going to be saddled with the debt that
Right.
it's going to take to spend those billions to make that system come true. What we've got here locally is a penny sales tax that we, the voters, get to decide on whether or not we want to pass. Now, in principle, I support it. I think it's a great idea because I don't like being stuck in traffic. I'd rather have an efficient transportation system in this county that gets me from point A to point B with limited interruptions and traffic congestion, so I can go spend more time with my family. I think most people would tend to agree with that. It's also important to our economy and economic development. The problem that I have, and what I hear a lot of people having with, as you alluded to, is that, you know, the plans aren't really firmly in place
Right,
in terms
right.
of where is this going to go, who's going to benefit, where is the economic development primarily going to occur. We realize we need something, but I think that the citizens also want a little bit more specifics, and those who have been behind proposing this plan have left out some of those details, which is going to lead more voters to wonder what's actually going to happen.
Exactly.
But ultimately, we need to do something. Given the fact that the elected officials haven't given us that direction, maybe that's enough reason for most voters to say, no, I'm not going to vote for it. Well, that remains to be seen. There's still, you know, several months between now and November
Right.
when that'll be on the ballot. But, you know, you look at what I characterize as the boondoggle of the trolley system downtown,
Right.
which we've spent millions and millions of dollars. They're going to spend millions more to extend it another half a mile or so.
Really?
You go downtown and you look at that thing and there's rarely anyone on it. And the same people who gave us that trolley system and the Heartline, which manages it, are going to be the people that are going to make the decisions on this light rail, that are going to make the decisions on expanded bus services as part of the penny sales tax, that are going to make decisions on other things regarding transportation improvements from that penny sales tax. And they don't have a good track record when you can just point to that one boondoggle
Right,
alone and
right.
say, you know, why is this being done, and is this a really an
Right.
effective use of our dollars?
That's right. Well, it's interesting. I was talking to someone the other day, and they said that they're with the bus system, that there's a huge deficit that the taxpayers pay for. So things do need to be addressed, and you're absolutely right.
Well, and there again, you know, that's a good point. And also, you know, you hear a lot of people say, well, I live in South County and the rail component isn't going to affect me because it's
Right.
only going to be in Tampa. Well, yeah, so be it. But we need to, at some point, as citizens and members of this community, not be so selfish in the things that we support, that our tax dollars are going to go toward, and look at the big picture. And does this ultimately benefit our overall community, our economy, make things more smooth? Those are the kinds of questions that we need to step back and look at and address. If we all only supported and paid into those things that we directly benefit from. Well,
Right.
I, for one, wouldn't pay into Social Security because I'm not getting anything
Well.
out of Social Security. Older people, they wouldn't pay anything into the school tax
Well,
because
there
they
you
don't
go.
have children in school. And so, if we look at things with the mindset of only supporting those things that directly benefit us, it's very selfish, and I think it's not in the spirit of our community, of our state, or of our nation, and we need to step back and kind of reevaluate how we look at those things.
Oh gosh, Chris, you're such a pragmatic guy. I like to hear you say that. It's such an emotional time right now, and it's an emotional election nationally. With things in D.C., people feel like that their voices aren't being heard. That it's just one big party up there, and we're not invited. So, what do you say about all that?
It's a pretty accurate assessment. I spent 10 years in Washington, and I've seen it firsthand. And I think, for me personally, the solution to that problem, at least immediately, is we need to throw these incumbents out, at least most of them. When I look at the ballot and what opportunities I have to vote this next week and also likely in November, there are very few incumbents that I think are deserving of re-election, because they are, so many of them, just kind of playing this game, and it's ego gratification and their personal self-interest and how they position themselves on the issues so they can get elected to their next job. You see so many elected officials bouncing around from one different position to another after they've been term limited out from one position. They go and run for something else. And so we've got a lot of open seats in county commission races and state house and other legislative districts where a member of the state house who's term limited is now running for the state senate, or a member of the state senate is now running for county commission, or those types of things. Or county commissioner is term limited, so they're running for state house of representatives. And it's just they've become career politicians. And I characterize it as they're people who are part of the problem, not part of the solution. A lot of these people, not all of them, but a good number of them. And I'm very fond of quoting Einstein's definition of insanity, and that is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome. Well, when we re-elect the same people tomorrow who gave us the problems that we're living with today because of their poor decisions yesterday, it's absolutely insane, and we need new, fresh voices and ideas at the state, local, and federal level. I think that's the only way we're going to change things.
I could not agree more. Well, what about Marco Rubio?
Well, Marco he's got a very interesting race, obviously, and there's a group, I forget the exact name of it, but it's a pretty reputable organization out of Washington, D.C. that keeps an eye on Congress and state and federal legislative officers, candidates for public office at the high level. And they did an assessment of the candidates who are running for state offices, constitutional type offices, governor and whatnot, and for Congress, House or Senate. And they came out with a list of the 12 most corrupt candidates running in 2010. Some of them are incumbents currently holding office, others are just new candidates or are formerly elected officials who are now running for either for governor or for state, or rather for Congress or for U.S. Senate. Well, to the point, they came up with their top 12 most corrupt candidates running in 2010. You're not going to believe this, but 5 of the top 12 are from the state of Florida, and all four of the major party candidates running for the U.S. Senate this year are on that list. Out of the whole country, they came up with the top 12, and 4 are running for the U.S. Senate in the state of Florida, including Marco Rubio, Charlie Crist, Jeff Green, and Kendrick Mead. This is an organization that it does not look at these rankings based on the candidate's partisan nature, whether a Democrat or a Republican. It in theory is very objective, and they've looked at all of these candidates from across the country, and every single major party candidate running for the U.S. Senate in the state of Florida, and I'm counting Charlie Crist as a major party candidate, even though he's no party affiliation, but he's certainly a very viable candidate. And they're all on this list of the 12 most corrupt candidates in 2010, and it just it pains me that we had that situation. It disgusts me in a lot of ways. I'm not real happy with my selection opportunities, options for that race. Marco's issues go to RPOF, Republican Party of Florida related matters, and credit card spending on Republican Party credit cards, and accountability and double billing airplane tickets and whatnot. Charlie Crist has issues also related to the Republican
right.
Party of Florida.
That's right.
Kendrick Meek has issues with special favors that a lobbyist did, presumably for his mother. And Jeff Green has a litany of different issues that are very questionable